Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this session of Analytics in 15. My name is Gal Heine. I'm a product manager of AWS Glue. And a quick note before we get started, I'm still recovering from a bit of a cold, so bear with me while I speak. A quick agenda for today. We're going to be covering the data integration space and customers' challenges. We're going to be talking about new features recently announced that help developer save time with no-code and low-code capabilities. And then we're going to be seeing a demo by Ram Kumar, a senior solution architect. Let's get started. AWS Glue is AWS's serverless data integration tool. One example of data integration is ETL, which means extracting data from multiple sources, transforming it, and then loading it into the target database. The motivation for conducting data integration pipelines can be triggered by a variety of reasons. Some common examples are a manager requesting a BI dashboard for product insights, or data scientists conducting research project. Next, data developers would need to complete multiple steps for producing quality data. They would need to gather requirements, make sure that they can access the data, aggregate it in a form that makes sense, filter unrelevant rows, and format the rest. Finally, they would validate that with the end user, and obviously requirements for the process may change and they would need to repeat it multiple times. Next, when the pipeline finally fits all the requirements we are still not done, we need to make it available to run in production. So we build a workflow and schedule it to run on a specific cadence. We set alerts to handle specific failure and monitor for those. Common failure that data developers deal with are system and network errors. It could be that their incoming data grew over time and now their pipeline does not have the resources to process it correctly, or they can run into schema changes resulting in corrupt data. Next, they would need to update their data integration pipelines to deal with those changes. We've built glues so you can focus on the data. We have hundreds of transforms and connectors you can use out of the box to build your data integration pipelines and complete all the common data integration tasks. Glue is serverless, so we scale on demand. We can process petabytes of data and you only pay for what you use. We support powerful open source engines, Spark, Ray, and Python, and developers don't need to manage their clusters. We do that for you. We also offer multiple interfaces for a variety of users, so developers with different skill sets can create Glue jobs. We have visual click-through interfaces, a notebook editor, and a script-based editor. Next, we're going to be covering a new feature for Brew. Brew is our visual spreadsheet-like no-code visual interface that is tailored for data analysts and business users. Additionally, we have Glue Studio Visual, which is a flow diagram tailored for ETL developers. Now, Brew recipes are available in AWS Glue Studio Visual Editor. You can run Brew recipes and use AWS Glue 4.0, our newest version, which offers better performance and auto-scaling for reduced cost. Here's an example of a recipe. Another enhancement is enhanced connectors that offer out-of-the-box connectivity for Redshift and Snowflake. We can use the Redshift connector and see databases and schemas, and also select the type of loading format. Finally, another really cool feature that helps developers save time is our new AI coding assistant. As you type code in your Glue notebook interface in Python or in plain English, you will now receive autocomplete code suggestions and code snippets in real time. This AI coding assistant is powered by Code Whisper, which is optimized for AWS services and popular data sources. It helps developers to complete their work 57% faster than before. So super exciting. Now let's switch over to Ram Kumar for the demo.
Hey, thanks, Gal, and hello, everyone. So today we will quickly take a look at some of the features that Gal just discussed with us. Let's dive deep. By the way, this is Ram Kumar Notat. I go by Ram. I'm a solutions architect focusing on analytics services. Happy to be here with you. All right. So we'll start with the first point that Al was talking about were the integration that we had with Data Brew and Glue Studio. Now, once I publish this, if I go into the next tab right here in the recipes, you'll be able to see that there is a recipe that got published with version 1. Now, version indicates that you can create multiple versions and you can use the various versions depending on your data set that you are getting in. So you can keep multiple versions as well. Now, let's get to the glue ETL interface. So here in the visual ETL, so this is the interface that Gal was mentioning about for the data engineers or ETL developers, right? So now I'm going with a blank canvas. So let's go ahead and create, and I will go ahead and X out this one. So here you have a blank canvas. So what we are going to do is doing a lot of drag and drop activities to make sure that we are doing all the ETL activities that we want to do, data prep activities that we want to do. So let's start with the two data sets that we have. One is the customer data set that we were looking at earlier. And the other one is we have a loan data set as well. All these are mocked up data sets. So we will use them for our demo. So let's click on S3 as a source. And once I select that, let me go ahead and change the name to customer for that node. And I'm going to select that data from the data catalog because I've already cataloged that into the Glue data catalog. And I will select the customer table there, right? Now, once I select customer data, now I don't want to redo whatever the business analyst has already done. So I want to just reuse that recipe here. So how do I do that? So for that, I click on this particular node, click the plus button, and let's type in data brew. And here you will see the data preparation recipe. So let's click on that. So that will automatically add the next step as a data brew recipe. Now, on the right hand side, on the properties, you will be able to select which recipe that you want to apply. So here you can see that this is a recipe that we just created. So let's go ahead and select that. And then you can select the version. As I was mentioning earlier, if you have multiple versions, you can choose which version that you want to apply on this particular data set. So you can see that these are the various steps that we have added to that data brew recipe. Now that's about one of the data sets. Now we want to bring in the other data set as well, right? So let's go ahead and add that. And that is a loan data set. So for the loan data set, again, we will go to the data catalog table and I will select the loan data set. And in here, I want to go ahead and apply some transformations. So for that, I'm going to use a SQL query because I have a some use cases where I want to run a SQL query on this particular data set to run some transformation. And this SQL query can be a lot of complex SQL queries. But for the time being, I will go with a pretty simple one where I will say that, hey, I want to select where loan amount is greater than 500. But you are free to go ahead and put in a lot more predicates and other conditions in that SQL query. Now, you have your data sets. Let me go ahead and close this. So now you have two different nodes that are out there. I want to go ahead and join these two. So let's go ahead and join them. You can see that in the node parent, this one is already selected. So I'm going to go ahead and add the data brew recipe as well to that so that we have these two joined together, right? Now you can see that there are same names coming from both the sides. So I'm going to resolve it by clicking this option by prefixing all these what the right ones with the string called right. So we'll go ahead and add that. Let's go ahead and add a condition. We are going to join based on customer ID equal to write customer ID, because that's a string that we have chosen there, right? Now, once you add this, there are so many other things that you can do. If you want to do sensitive data detection, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you want to run data quality checks, you can go ahead and do that. But in the interest of time, I think we will just stick to some of the features that we looked at earlier. So let's go ahead and load this data into Redshift. So here you can see that Redshift is listed as both source and target. So in this use case, we are using this as a target. But you can very well bring data from Redshift as a source, but you can provide custom SQL and bring the data in. But here we are using that as a target because we are pushing the data into the Redshift. All right. So here in the in the connection, we are going to select the connection that we have created between Glue and Redshift. And in the schema, I'm going to push the data into this Redshift schema called public, because now you can see that it is listing the various schemas and tables that Redshift has, right? So that's advantage. That's the native integration that we have. So we are going to create a new table altogether. Demo customer loan. Okay. And this is something that Gal was mentioning earlier as well. There are various ways in which you can load the data. Either you can append, or if you want to do merge, basically an upsert functionality, you can very well go ahead and do that as well, or truncate the table, or drop and recreate the table. There are various options with the native integration with Redshift, but here we are sticking with the append option, where we are just going ahead and loading the data. Now let's go to the job details and give the job a name, right? And I will go and select one of the roles. And there are a bunch of other things that you can look at in the job details as well, like the version of Glue, the language, or the worker types, and the number of workers and things like that. And it's typical for any other Glue jobs as well. So we are not going into those details. So let's go ahead and save it, right? And we'll go ahead and run. Now, once you start the run, you'll be able to see that entry right here and the status of that run. Now, we don't need to stay on this slide to take a look at the status, and if needed, we can come back as well. But in the meantime, I want to talk to you about something interesting that Gal was mentioning, because how can we not talk about Gen AI in a discussion, right? Because there is uh, so much happening out there, pretty innovative things that are happening out there. So let's take a look at that as well. Right. Currently, I'm into the notebook section. So earlier, what we looked at was the visual ETL, and currently I'm into the notebooks. So which is nothing but an interactive session where developers can directly code and interact with the data. Right. So this is a studio node, AWS Glue Studio Notebook. So I've activated the session. Now, what I'm going to do is, let me go ahead and add a cell there. And let's start with this. Let's talk about, let's say, create sample data for customer orders, right? So this is the suggestion that we are getting. So you have you can use your up and down arrows to find out which option that you want to go with. So you can pick and choose. And let's say if we go with this, right? So it keeps generating the data. And what I will do is I will just go ahead and close this one. So hopefully this was helpful. And one quick call to action: please try out the features that we discussed today, whether it is data brew integration, Redshift or Snowflake integration, or the code whisperer Glue integration. Please go and try that out. Thank you.